Hello and welcome to the engine house here at Highley on the Severn Valley Railway.
Now this year marks the bicentenary of the Stockton and Darlington Railway and the birth of the modern railway as we know it.
This weekend, the greatest gathering takes place at Alstom's Works in Derby. In this, the Railway 200 year, to celebrate that momentous occasion.
Now, as one of the country's leading heritage railways, the Severn Valley Railway is playing a big part in this weekend's celebrations and has provided a large number of the exhibits that will be on display.
Bachmann will be in Derby too, and to coincide with that event, we have two brand new tooling projects to share with you today. Visitors to the greatest gathering will be able to see them for themselves, so let's take a look now what we have in store.
Now, when we think of railways, we tend to think of passengers, but the first railways were actually established to haul goods, not people.
What goods? Well, coal was the obvious one. This mineral fueled the Industrial Revolution, and the Stockton and Darlington Railway was established in the northeast of England in its rich coal fields, so that's where we're heading for our first new model.
The Stockton and Darlington Railway opened in 1825 and in 1863 became part of the North Eastern Railway network. At the time, small wooden trucks known as children wagons were used for transporting coal, but by the end of the century, the North Eastern Railway Board was looking for efficiency and volume as demand only grew bigger.
The answer? Large wooden hopper wagons, which could carry 20 tonnes each, much more than the children's, which typically carried less than 3 tonnes. From 1902, the NER built these wagons to the P7 design, and this would go on to become the most numerous of these family of 20-tonne wooden hopper wagons.
The 8-plank hoppers had sides that flared out at the top to increase coal capacity and aid gravity discharge of loads through the 8 bottom doors built into the wagon's floor. Large wooden pillars were fitted at each end and extended below the buffer beam to allow the new wagons to couple with the diminutive childrens that they would go on to replace.
More than 10,000 P7 wagons were built, along with thousands to the P8 diagram. These had anti-friction gear, allowing a higher capacity of 23 tonnes. But by the time of the grouping in 1923, that gear had been removed, the wagons downrated to 20 tonnes and reclassified as P7s, meaning that more than 17,000 P7s headed into LNER stock upon grouping in 1923.
The design endured with the LNER and a further 7,000 wagons were built by 1930. These were allocated diagram 12 by the LNER and differed from their predecessors in having steel end pillars on the wagon ends rather than wooden ones. Now, the final childrens had been withdrawn long before the grouping, and so the need for close coupling was no longer required. So many of the earlier northeastern built wagons had the end pieces of their wooden stanchions removed.
The introduction of steel mineral wagons signalled the end for the wooden hoppers, yet many were still in use at the time of nationalisation in 1948. Withdrawals continued, and the last remaining examples to be used were those that found their way into private ownership or at National Coal Board collieries. Several are now preserved though.
With such a rich history, the P7 and diagram 12 hoppers were an ideal candidate for the Graham Farish N-scale range, and the fruits of our labours can be shared with you now.
The Graham Farish models tell the story of both the North Eastern Railway and LNER built wagons, typified by their wooden or steel end pillars respectively. But the variety doesn't end there. The wooden pillars can extend to be level with the buffer beam or lower, and safety chains either side of the draw gear can be fitted or not. Above the buffer beam, some wagons featured a slot allowing a rope to pass through for use on winched inclines. This feature can be modelled too.
Many P7s were built with double axle guards to provide rigidity on a wagon that had no fixed floor and which would normally add strength to the underframe. Later single versions were fitted, and both options can be depicted. The handrails found at either end and on each side are added separately using fine metal wire, and on the ends, 1 or 2 horizontal rails can be fitted to suit the prototype.
Regardless of individual details, each model boasts a precision moulded wagon hopper, with fine engraving of the planks and hopper doors. The chassis is just as detailed and is adorned with separate brakes, brake gear, metal buffers, and even the monkey tails that were used to operate the latches securing the hopper doors.
Now, it goes without saying that metal wheels are used, with spoked or 3-hole disc wheels depicted, and the N-scale couplings are fitted via NEM pockets.
So let's take a look at which models we'll be starting with. Our first releases cover NER operation through to the wagon's final years in private ownership, and first are 2 P7 hoppers in North Eastern Railway grey. Both carry ND markings showing they have been allocated to the Northern Division, and each features single axle guards, a single horizontal handrail on the ends, and extended end pillars allowing them to couple to childrens, along with safety chains. As these wagons stem from the North East where the modern railway was born, we've selected this pair for our Railway Celebrations range. Two LNER built D12s with their steel end pillars are finished in the grey applied by the LNER and with the abbreviated lettering NE. Our D12 models all feature twin horizontal handrails at each end, bringing the total to 10 separately fitted metal handrails for each individual wagon, and we stay with the diagram 12 for our first BR models, with this pair of wagons available in BR Grey, giving you a choice of 2 running numbers. Into private ownership now, and our next model is an original NER built P7 in use with the National Coal Board. The wagon's end pillars extend only as far as the buffer beam, and 2 handrails are fitted to each end, along with single axle guards. Our final example for now brings some colour to the range with this diagram 12 in the attractive green and black livery of BSC Limited, British Sugar, and lettered Cantley Railway as the real wagons serve BSC's Norfolk factory in Cantley, east of Norwich.
Production of these wagons is now well underway, and the first livery samples for the initial releases will be unveiled in the British Railway announcements on August the 6th.
Delivery of the models is due in the first quarter of 2026 and they're priced at £29.95 each. You can order yours today from your local Bachmann stockist. Well, that's our N-scale model. Next, we're going to double O.
Now we're staying in the northeast for our next new model, and it's a story with a few family connections, not just for the prototype and its designer, but also for the Bachmann model itself.
Not content with one North Eastern Railway design, our next new tooling is a locomotive that played a part at the Stockton Darlington Railway's 100th anniversary celebrations in 1925. But we have to go back 140 years to find the start of our story.
When Thomas Worsdale became locomotive superintendent of the North Eastern Railway in 1885, he set about designing a new standard class tank engine for shunting duties. The result was the E-Class 060, and 60 were built under Thomas's tenure before he retired in 1890. He was succeeded by his brother Wilson, who built a further 60 of the locos, taking the total to 120.
Unsurprisingly, Wilson wanted to make his own mark, and in 1898 he introduced the E1 class. Differentiated from the E1 had larger cylinders, a larger coal bunker and smaller driving wheels. It also did away with the clack valves feeding the boiler and the ram's-bottom safety valves.
The E-Class were built with metal buffer beams, whereas the E1s used wooden planks sandwiched between metal plates. However, several of the E-Class received the E1 style buffer beams during the course of their working lives.
Is this the one you recognise? Of course, the E1, later the LNER J72, has been part of the branch line range for decades, and the preserved example, 69023 JOM, is well travelled and much adored in preservation. Then there's the unique fact that the E1, or J72 if you prefer, was built by the NER, the LNER and BR over a period of almost 53 years, despite which the fleet only numbered 113, fewer than the E-Class.
Back to the subject then. Now the E's proved themselves to be really worthy machines, being ideally suited to the many weight restrictions and tight curvature found at the ports that the North Eastern served.
They were also used at Darlington Works and the Shildon workshops where they handled internal movements, and some were allocated as station pilots, whilst others were responsible for local trip workings.
Now all 120 became part of the LNER fleet at grouping in 1923, and they were given the classification J71 under the LNER system.
Withdrawals commenced in 1930 as the younger J72s replaced them, and by the time of nationalisation, almost a third had been taken out of traffic, and BR inherited a fleet of 81 locomotives.
The 1950s and the introduction of the 350 horsepower diesel shunter, later known as the Class 08, was the death knell for the J71, and by 1961 the final example was taken out of traffic after a service life of 74 years. None were preserved.
As we know, the J72s fared slightly better. You may well be thinking, what's the connection between our new J71 and the J72 that we produced a few years ago?
Now, to accurately model the E-Class, or the J71s, has taken quite a lot of new tooling, and in fact, all we've been able to reuse from the J72 are just a few sundry items, to be blunt.
And this development doesn't stop us making more J72s either. We've produced new tooling rather than modify what we already had.
The cab, tank and bunker moulding is new to capture the smaller bunker, and the die-cast running plate is new too, sporting those metal buffer beams, along with revised splashes to suit the larger wheels. They're new too, of course.
A new boiler has been produced to depict the locomotives as built, with crack valves and ram's bottom safety valves, while we can also model the later boilers without crack valves and with Ross-Pop safety valves, with or without their covers.
More generally, the level of detail on these models is immense, with metal lamp irons, wire handrails and turned metal knobs, wire guard irons and separate brakes, rigging, sandboxes and sandpipes.
There's the option to model locomotives that were fitted with vacuum brakes too, complete with buffer beam vac pipes and pipe runs along the length of the ruin plate and from the cab front to the smoke box. Sprung metal buffers of 3 different patterns can be fitted to suit.
Inside, the model is powered by a coreless motor with all-wheel pickup and separate metal bearings on each axle. NEM coupling pockets are fitted, as is a speaker and Next 18 DCC interface, while all models have a firebox lighting system that works on both analogue and DCC.
Sound-fitted versions will be available too. These employ an ESU Locksound Micro V5 DCC decoder, loaded with a range of sound effects which can be enjoyed on both analogue and DCC. We're starting with 3 models, so let's take a look at those in detail.
First we have North Eastern Railway number 495 in its beautiful lined green and maroon, complete with gold lettering. The livery was devised during Thomas Worsdall's tenure, and this original condition loco sports clack valve boiler feeds, ramsbottom safety valves, bell whistle and parallel shank buffers with round mounts. Neither coal rails nor rear cab window bars were fitted when new. Number 317 in LNER lined black livery is most fitting for today's announcement, having played a part in the 1925 centenary celebrations of the opening of the Stockton and Darlington Railway. Whilst not taking a leading role, number 317 hauled LNER electric locomotive number 9 in the Grand Cavalcade to royal approval. The loco still had its original boiler with clack valves and ramsbottom safety valves at the time, but was fitted with a tubular whistle and again coal rails. Note too the smokebox handwheel and the lack of window bars on the rear cab windows. Completing the trio is number 68260 in BR black with early emblems. The real loco dates back to 1890 and survived to 1960, working out of Middlesbrough for the majority of its career with British Railways. Notable features are the absence of clack valves, Rospop safety valves which have been fitted with a cover, group standard buffers with square mounts, and the rails on both the bunker and the rear cab windows. The smokebox sports the familiar twin handles with BR number plates fitted above.
Delivery is expected in early 2026, and again livery samples will be unveiled in the autumn British Railway announcements.
You can order yours now though from your local Bachmann stockist, with prices starting at £159.95.
Well, that's all for today. You can see these models for yourself in Derby this weekend if you're attending the Greatest Gathering. However, please be aware that the event has sold out, so please do not travel there unless you have a ticket.
We'll be back here at the Engine House in Highley for our autumn British Railway announcements on Wednesday the 6th of August, premiering at 9:30. And who knows, we might even have another new tooling to share with you.
Something with a Western influence perhaps?
Might be, Gary, or maybe it'll just come straight out of the blue. Well, until then, thanks for watching. We'll see you again.